Some people say the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. But what happens when a man transforms himself into something even colder than that? When he deliberately freezes every emotion, every connection, every spark of humanity just to survive? Today, we're exploring the story of a man who became ice, not metaphorically, literally. He trained himself to feel nothing, to be untouchable, to exist as a force of nature rather than a human being. And in doing so, he became the most terrifying threat his enemies had ever encountered. This is the story of He Became Too Cold to Be Hurt Again. Before we dive into the story, please like, subscribe, and let us know where you're chatting from. Marcus Hale wasn't born cold. In fact, he was the opposite. He grew up in warmth, a tight-knit family, loyal friends, a promising career in corporate law. He believed in people. He believed in justice. He believed that if you did the right thing, the world would reward you for it. He was naive, and that naivety nearly destroyed him. Marcus's father had built a security consulting firm from the ground up, partnering with men he called brothers: David Chen, Robert Kessler, James Whitmore. These weren't just business partners, they were family friends, godparents to Marcus's younger sister, guests at every holiday dinner, until the day they weren't. Marcus was 26 when he discovered the truth. His father's partners had been using the company as a front for illegal arms deals, selling weapons to enemies of the state. When his father found out and threatened to go to the authorities, they didn't just silence him, they erased him. The official story was a murder-suicide. Marcus's father supposedly killed his wife, then himself. The evidence was airtight. The case was closed within weeks. But Marcus knew. He'd seen the documents his father had hidden. He knew what his father had discovered, and he knew that the men who killed his family were walking free, protected by money, power, and connections that reached into the highest levels of government. The pain was unbearable. The rage was consuming, and Marcus realized something that would change him forever. Emotion was a weakness. Trust was a liability. Love was a weapon that could be used against you. So he made a choice. He would become something that couldn't be hurt, something that couldn't be manipulated, something cold enough to survive in the frozen wasteland his life had become. He would become ice. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It took 3 years of deliberate, agonizing work. Marcus disappeared. He left behind his career, his friends, his sister, everyone who knew the old Marcus Hale. He traveled to places where emotions were liabilities, war zones, criminal underworlds, places where hesitation meant death. He trained with mercenaries who taught him to kill without remorse. He studied under interrogators who showed him how to resist torture by severing the connection between pain and response. He worked with con artists who demonstrated how to read people without feeling empathy for them. But the real training happened inside his own mind. Every night, Marcus practiced emotional detachment. When memories of his mother's laugh surfaced, he pushed them down into ice. When he thought about his father's last words, he froze the pain until it stopped hurting. When he missed his sister, he reminded himself that attachment was the enemy. He developed techniques: cold breathing, slow, measured, emotionless. The ice room, a mental space where he locked away everything human about himself. The shadow protocol, a way of moving through the world as an observer, never a participant. People who met Marcus during those years described him as unsettling. His eyes were empty. His voice was flat. He could watch violence without flinching. He could lie without guilt. He could hurt people without hesitation. He had succeeded. He had become too cold to be hurt again. But he'd also become something else, a weapon. And now it was time to aim that weapon at the men who destroyed his family. Marcus's vengeance wasn't hot-blooded or impulsive. It was calculated, methodical, and absolutely merciless. He didn't just want them dead. He wanted them destroyed, piece by piece, exactly the way they'd dismantled his family's life. First came James Whitmore. Marcus infiltrated his social circle, became his financial advisor, gained his trust over 18 months. Then, systematically, he destroyed him. Leaked information to the IRS, planted evidence of embezzlement, turned his business partners against him. By the time Whitmore realized what was happening, he'd lost everything: his company, his fortune, his reputation. He died alone in a cheap motel, drowning in debt and despair. Marcus felt nothing watching it unfold. Not satisfaction, not guilt, nothing. Robert Kessler was next. Marcus approached it differently, more direct. He used his mercenary contacts to expose Kessler's illegal arms deals to rival cartels. The cartels handled the rest. Kessler died screaming, begging for mercy that never came. Marcus watched from a distance, monitoring the security cameras. His heart rate didn't change. His expression remained neutral. The old Marcus would have been horrified. The new Marcus simply moved on to the next target. David Chen was the smartest of the three. He suspected someone was hunting them. He hired bodyguards, moved to a secure location, cut off all contact with the outside world. It didn't matter. Marcus spent 6 months preparing. He studied Chen's security patterns, identified weaknesses, recruited inside help, and when the moment came, he walked into Chen's fortress like a ghost, bypassed every defense, and confronted the man who'd helped murder his family. He begged. He offered money, information, anything. He said he had no choice. He said he was sorry. He listened with the same emotional investment he'd give a weather report. Then he eliminated Chen and walked away, leaving behind only questions and fear. The authorities never connected the deaths. Whitmore's suicide seemed plausible. Kessler's murder looked like cartel violence. Chen's killing remained unsolved. Marcus had achieved what he set out to do. He'd destroyed the men who destroyed his family. He'd proven that becoming cold made him untouchable, unstoppable. But there was a problem. He couldn't turn it off. The ice had gone too deep. When his sister finally tracked him down, desperate to reconnect with her only remaining family, Marcus looked at her and felt nothing. Not love, not relief, just the cold assessment of whether she posed a threat to his operations. She cried. He didn't. She told him she'd missed him. He didn't respond. She said, "You're not my brother anymore." He agreed. Marcus had won his war, but the victory was hollow because the man who'd wanted vengeance no longer existed. He'd frozen that part of himself along with everything else. The question that haunts the end of the story is simple. Can ice melt? Or had Marcus become too cold for too long, forever trapped in the frozen wasteland he'd created to protect himself? Marcus Hale proved that becoming emotionally frozen can make you untouchable. No one could hurt him. No one could manipulate him. He became the most dangerous version of himself. But danger cuts both ways. In protecting himself from pain, he'd also cut himself off from everything that makes life worth living: connection, love, hope, joy. The men who wronged him died in fear and misery, but Marcus's punishment was different. He survived, sentenced to walk through life as a shadow, watching others feel things he'd trained himself never to experience again. Sometimes the coldest revenge is the one you inflict on yourself. So I ask you, is it possible to protect yourself so completely that you forget what you were protecting in the first place? Can someone come back from becoming ice? Or are some transformations permanent? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations of the human condition at its extreme. Remember, the strongest armor isn't always protection. Sometimes it's just another kind of prison.